Not bad. I went ahead and I made myself a disc golf basket out of wood. All the projects I found online were some out of like found materials or PVC or metals or welding. I don't know why I couldn't find a good wooden one. So I went ahead, put one together, got some ideas on schematics, and made this guy here. I'm pretty happy with it, and I'll show you guys how I made it. Alright, so I'm going to be using this bit of plywood here. It's 1/2-inch plywood. I think it's 4 feet by 26 inches. I'm using this 2x4. It's a full 92 inches long. That's going to be the center beam, and that's going to be the basket and top piece. Alright, I'm just getting ready to cut this piece of plywood in half. I'm going to make a 26 by 26 inch square. I'm going to use the leftover for the top afterwards. Should come out to 22 inches. Well, 26 by 22, and then I'll fix it to size. I'm just going to do this really quickly with my skill saw. I don't have a table saw, so I'm just going to make this work. And movie magic. There we go. Now I got two pieces. One 26 by 26, another one 22 by 22. Don't worry too much about getting like the edges too straight or anything, because I will be attempting to round this off. So we'll see. Next up is the centerpiece. Alright, I got the chop saw plugged in, got my 2x4 measured out. Gonna cut a piece to 55 inches, and that's gonna be our centerpiece. Alright, so I'm gonna start cutting out a circle in this. I've scored the edges. I don't have the tool that actually makes circles, so I made one. Yeah, just put a bolt through two pieces of wood, tightened it down, and then just kind of scored the wood. So you can see the lines pretty well. So I'm going to use my jigsaw, cut a circle out on this one and the other bit of plywood. Alright, this actually worked out pretty well. The one thing I'd say is if you have a bandsaw, definitely use a bandsaw. This is kind of a work on the hands to get this one done. I gotta do the next one, then I'll get another update. Alright, those are cut. I kind of changed my mind on the basket piece. I want the hexagon look. It's mostly just because I could brace the sidewalls a little bit better than I can if it was rounded. I could just put a piece of wood on the inside and that'll make it much more sturdy. Alright, now I've marked where the middle piece is going to go to about the size of my 2x4. I've cut a few holes with a drill in the center of this, big enough for my jigsaw to fit in. Just my little blade there. And then I'm going to cut that centerpiece out so this can slide down the center of the pole. Alright, so I cut the hole in the center. The hole's a little bit bigger than the post, but I mean the 2x4 is not perfect, so I had to cut a little bit wider. I don't mind that there's a little bit of play. I'm going to brace the bottom end eventually, so it'll be fine. The idea is you're not going to have it, just, you know, staying on the pole just by the friction or whatever it's called, the pinching. You know what I'm getting at. Anyway, I'm going to put some braces underneath it on the pole. Just wanted to make sure everything fit right now. Okay, now for the bottom of this post, I wish I had actually bought two of these 2x4s at the hardware store, but instead of going out and getting another 2x4, I've got a lot of these redwood 2x2s that I'm going to use up for the base and for bits in the middle. Although I would recommend you get more of this 2x4 just to make everything a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, a little more badass, all that good stuff. Trying to be clever didn't work. Okay, well, I'm going to get to putting this together and I'll show you how it comes out. Okay, so I got it all done here. I used this redwood on the edge and the Douglas fir as well that I had left over. And put a bunch of screws in. Make sure you do not get screws touching each other. As you can see, I got one here, here. I got one going in through the side here. This one's up here, so that's not a problem. But I basically have the reverse of this on the other end where it's like that. So, and one other thing. The wood has split in the Douglas fir. So, pro tip, use pilot holes. Okay, so for the walls of the basket, I'm going to put these little bracers inside just to give the wood something to hold on to against it. And I cut these at 22.5 degrees just so these don't really bump into each other. I did not measure these specifically to the length. As you can see, it doesn't really get to the end there, but that's because I did a lot of just kind of free cutting on this, so I'm not too concerned about the length itself. I just measured to make sure what the shortest length of each of these walls are, which was 10 inches, and I had already have a piece that was 9 3/4, so I just went ahead and made a bunch of 9 3/4 ones. Now I'm just going to finish up cutting the rest of these, and then maybe if I could get some short enough screws, I could hold this down from below, and then I can get the rest of the bits so I can have a good enough wall. So, got all of them cut, made sure not to do any little goofs like cutting one of these at this kind of an angle or anything. You guys want to make sure you avoid that, make sure everything's trapezoid shaped. Yes, there are gaps between each one of these, but like I said earlier, I wasn't trying to be perfect. I would recommend go for the, perfection as good as you can. As you can see with this wall here, this is the shortest wall, right on the ends there. That's as much as it goes, and there's another one where, compared to, say, the opposite side, see the gap's a lot bigger on that. So I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, so I didn't bother for perfect. So now I'm just going to put some screws in these, and then I can get started on the walls for the basket. Just a quick note on this one. When I first put it down, it wasn't too terribly stable. Now I think I got it pretty stable. I just got whatever leftover bit of plywood I had, added them to little feet, and found some tiny screws I got to put in there. So, whoa. Don't know how that looks to you guys, but see, I got little screws in there. So that'll hold them just fine. It's a lot more stable now. It's not going anywhere. Put it back down. Look at that. Solid. And voila. Got screws in every single one of these. They're holding out pretty tight. Yes, I know I only used one screw, but I'm going to be reinforcing the walls at the top of the basket, so I'm not too concerned about only putting one at the bottom. My concern was actually keeping the wood itself open, because I want to put more screws into this, and I don't want too many other screws banging into each other. So, I'm going to get started on that, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I am gonna use some pallet wood for the outside walls, just because I have it. I'm gonna go ahead and call it right now. I definitely should have bought more plywood at the store, but that's hindsight for you. So I would recommend you guys definitely buy more plywood. It'll definitely be a better idea. Some of these are a bit warped, but they'll do. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting these together. I've already measured out each one, make sure none of them are hanging over the edge or anything, so it should be fine. Let's see how it turns out. Well, a quick thing I'll say is don't put too much force on these. You will split the wood. Maybe not you guys if you use the plywood like you're supposed to, but if you're doing what I'm doing with the pallet wood, do be careful. Another thing is these are still pretty wobbly-ish, but they should be fine. And pro tip, do it from the right side going left. That way, if you're right-handed, you can hold these a bit better with your hand like that. Hold them down, hold them steady where you could put your drill through. Alright, so the basket's finished, in quotes, finished. I might add a little bit more to it. I mean, I got pieces like this that just kind of fill in the gap that are still pretty flimsy. So, I said it once, I'll say it again. Definitely get the extra plywood for the sides, because that's just going to make it even stronger and a lot lighter. So, I don't know what else I'm going to do with this, but I'll take a look at it later. So now on the pole, we got to start measuring where we're going to put our little stoppers. The idea is to get some 2x4s about there. I've already put a little mark. The measurements you need to know is that you need to have 19 inches from the top of the tee to the top of the basket. So you need an opening of 19 inches. I made the fence of my basket about 8 inches tall. So 19 plus 8 equals 27. So I went ahead and put a little mark at 27 inches. I'm going to put some bracers right underneath it, put all around. I'll show you how that looks when I'm done. Alright, so there's the idea I had. Just kind of building this brace around the bottom for the basket to sit on. I put these side ones, I screwed them in down here so as not to interfere with any extra spots up here. I think I'm going to put another screw in through the side here and one on the other opposite end, just to make these a little bit stronger, because right now they're just the one screw. So just to reinforce it, make it a little bit more strong, and that'll be good. Okay, so now we get to the question of how are we going to attach the top onto this basket. And what I've come up with is this kind of method here. I've made this small square of plywood, and I've attached it with a couple of bolts with, what are those, wing nuts? Yes, those are wing nuts. So I connected some wing nuts on there. Originally I was thinking of doing kind of a sleeve system, where this would just kind of slide on top and sit, so that would be kind of semi-detachable, but I don't really have the wood. I don't feel like going out and getting more wood, so I came up with this idea. Whoa, light there. So I came up with this idea, and make sure to cut this bit out first. And actually, I made a little bit of an adjustment on this guy. I had to take off an extra ½ inch to accommodate adding this ½ inch. Not easy when you already have the base there, but I did it. I managed. And so just keep that in mind when you're making your pole. Make it ½ inch smaller. So if you're doing this method, that is. So just do a 54.5 cut for the middle pole, so you can get this piece on there. Next step is to attach this top piece. Take these guys off, and then make sure everything's centered, because that's essential. Actually, it's not even centered right now, but make sure you do that. I'm going to put some screws in through the top, make sure it's sturdy, and then I can get started on the chains. Okay, so this worked. It's pretty stable, seems balanced. I'll know once I get like chains on it how it fares with weight, but I think it's okay. It moved a bit when I was putting some pilot holes. I really did not want to split the center post, so I recommend you guys do some pilot holes on that. This worked pretty well. I do just a quick thing I want to say to you guys though. The reason I did three bolts instead of doing 4 is just to keep everything kind of balanced the way I had everything drawn and centered and perfect. So just to make sure I keep assembling in the same direction every time, I just put in 3 instead of doing 4, because that's just going to get a little confusing. So next step is actually the chains, and then this should be done. And here's the major flaw. I made that top part permanent there with those 2 screws, and there's my basket. I don't know if you guys are going to notice that right away, but that hole in the center for the post to slide in, not going to do it. Time to fix this. So I guess my hopes of making this thing at least semi-portable is just going to be on the back burner for a bit. So I guess I could just make it fully just one piece and keep it somewhere on my lawn and just practice in that one spot over and over again. I was kind of hoping to make this at least transportable a bit, so I can go out to the field, down to the high school on the weekends, and just do some practice shots from farther away, but, well, I don't know. I mean, I suppose I could keep taking the screws in and out, but I really don't want to, just because I want to make sure the wood stays pretty structurally good. Oh well. I'll fix that later on, maybe, or you guys can come up with a good idea, give me some hints. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so did all the measurements to find the circumference. If you guys remember 7th grade math, C equals pi d, circumference equals pi times the diameter. Our diameter is 22 inches, so total circumference is 69.08. divided by 8, because I'm putting 8 chains on this instead of doing the 12 on the outside, 12 on the inside. I'm just doing the 18 around the edges. So divided by 18, or 69.08 divided by 16 comes out to something like 3.83, and that's something like 3 inches and 5/8. I want to say. So I've just been freehand drawing little marks on these every 3 and 5/8. And when I got back around to the end of the circle, I was off by about that much. So it's about 1/2 inch. So I went ahead, just like fixed the outsides, kind of like balance it out. I'm not going for perfect again. And yeah, so they're a little bit wider. Not that bad. You know, it's about 4 inches around each one. So now I can go ahead and get started on drilling little holes and attaching my chains via zip ties. And it's starting to come together. Went ahead, got these zip ties. They're just, what are these? 4-inch zip ties. They could hold 18 pounds. Got them for like $3.50, and they seem to be doing the job just fine. In terms of the chains, from what I read online, you should get 26-inch chains, but I went and got 24. That's because I found out that chains like these are around $1 a foot, and when you have 18 around the sides, that comes up to 36 feet, and then they add tacks. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and then I'm gonna tie the bottom together. I got some just like loose rope. I'm just gonna tie these at the bottom down here in a circle. Should be fine. You guys can use whatever you want. I saw one guy use coax cable of all things. I don't know. Saw another guy use a coat hanger hook. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this up, and then we're gonna give this a little practice. I'd say that's done. I mean, I'm satisfied with that. I mean, it works, so I'm happy with that. I think it came out pretty good. Turned out that, yeah, apparently I have 1,000,000 of these coat hangers, so I just really bent one up and just got it in there. Maybe eventually I'll cut off these little guys, but I'd say that's a win. And that's that. Check it out. Let's see if I can make this long shot while holding a camera steady. Kinda, not really. Oh well. But anyway, this is the finished project, and I'm happy with it. So, things that I changed, I guess, where the center pole made it 1/2 inch shorter, accommodate that piece up there. One thing I gotta say, I am grateful that I went with this idea of putting these wing nuts on here, because I can't lift this thing all together. There's a reason it's hard to find any projects like this, making a basket completely out of wood, because this guy is heavy. The only way I can move this guy around is taking this top off, because these chains, they add a lot of weight. So take that top off. Although I can't get this basket off now, I am still able to lift it up to the pole a bit. So once I get up to the top, I can just kind of tilt it over, carry it on my shoulder. It's no problem. But transporting around, I guess I'm going to have to find a friend with a pickup truck. So yeah, good luck to you guys. Give me some ideas of what I should have done differently, what I can do differently. And if it's good enough, put it together. Alright, have a good day, and good luck.